Welcome to Real Talk, the show where we look at issues facing our youth today. My name is Ome Kongo and I'm your host, and I have a very special guest today who's really going to not just empower the audience, but really inform the audience about what they can do about a little-known disease called muscular dystrophy. When her 5-year-old son was first diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, the first question attorney Star Barberton asked was, why me? 7 years later, she had an answer to that question so that she could, from a place of experience and compassion, support, empower, and inspire other parents and organizations that support parents with kids with special needs. Star accomplishes that by speaking to parents and organizations on these and other topics that help educate and empower her target audience. Using her engaging and compassionate style, she's very compassionate. Star has spoken for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy. Her key message reminds caregivers that while they can't always control the circumstances that affect them, they do have a choice in how they respond. She encourages participants to take time to live and laugh and to accept that there will be sad times. Star also reminds caregivers to take time for themselves. A fully charged spirit is a much better caregiver. Welcome to Real Talk, Star.
Thank you very much, Ome Kongo. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure of mine. How are you doing?
You know what? I woke up today, and that is a beautiful start of every day.
Absolutely. Well, I would like to also start with another beautiful start to every day, and I think people should really hear what you have to say in your book that's going to be forthcoming, which is called Dancing in the Rain, Loving a Child with a Life-Altering Disease. Could you share some words from that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. This is the prologue. We are sitting on the curb in a parking lot of a small deli off of Interstate 95. My 5-year-old son has been crying in the back seat of the car for the last 20 miles. I assume his upset involved some interaction with his 3-year-old sister, also in the back seat, but he shook his head when I asked if he wanted to talk about it. While I was still driving, I warned that if he didn't calm himself, I would pull this car over and he would have to talk to me. 10 minutes later, I pulled off the highway into the parking lot. I'm driving my children home to Virginia. They have been in New York with my mother for the past few days while I attended a conference on Duchenne muscular dystrophy, DMD. DMD is a degenerative disease that causes the muscles of young boys to get weaker as they go older instead of stronger. I have spent the last 4 days having this disease and the devastating effects it will likely have on my son shoved down my throat in 45-minute increments throughout the course of each day. I went to this conference willingly because it's information I needed to know, but it was hard to swallow. Sitting in silence, I rub my son's back affectionately, and he begins to cry again. What was that all about? I ask when he finally stops crying. What are you talking about? He replies with a straight face. His emerging dry wit tickles me. We both smile. He says his sister upset him. What happened? I don't remember, he responds. Okay, then when did it happen? When she was born, perhaps? I see a small smile cross his face. Apparently it bothered my son when his sister told him to be quiet while they were playing together. He said that when he tried to calm himself, he kept thinking about the bad things. The bad things we've talked about before, I ask. He nods. The bad things we usually talk about revolve around DMD and how it confounds his every effort, desire, and dream. Now, I usually tell him to concentrate on the good things in his life, but not today. Today I confess to him that I, too, find it hard to see the good because the bad things seem so big, so overwhelming. It seems there's no way to see around them. My son is surprised by the emotion in my voice. He quickly looks into my face, and I don't hide my tears. I am sad and angry and hurt just like he is. I'm sad because of the frustration it causes my child when he can't keep up with the other kids his age. I'm angry because all of this disease takes away from him and all that it has taken away from me, and I am hurt because it is so unfair, so terribly unfair. I just don't understand why this is happening to him, to us. My son and I embrace for a few moments. We are bonded in our grief. And then he screams, a deep, guttural kind of scream with no words or full vocalization. Ah! I ask him if there is something specific he wants to scream. He shrugs. I hate muscular dystrophy, I suggest. The emotion explodes out of my boy as he sobs heavily into my chest, nodding his head. I hold him tight, the tears running down my own face, and I tell him I want to yell the same. I ask him if he wants to yell it right here, right in this parking lot, but he says he'd rather do it in his room when we get home. So we make a date. In his room, with the doors and windows closed, on his bed, into his pillows, we will both scream, I hate muscular dystrophy.
Wow. Wow, that's deep. I mean, that's not even a word that can even describe that. I mean, just in that alone, for those of us who are not aware of what muscular dystrophy is, that tells a story within itself. But for our audience, could you give us a breakdown of what muscular dystrophy is?
Well, it's a degenerative muscular disorder. In the muscles, there is something called dystrophin that protects the muscles, keeps the fat from coming in. Those with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, their bodies don't produce this dystrophin. So the muscle cells are not protected. So fat comes in and out. And usually when you exercise, you actually tear your muscles a little bit, but then they use the dystrophin and they come back together. That makes you stronger. He doesn't have that dystrophin. So when he was younger, the dystrophin was, he was growing so fast that there was enough dystrophin, but as he's getting older, he doesn't have any more. And so his muscles get weaker and weaker and weaker. And it affects every muscle in his body.
And this is a disease that just affects boys?
It just affects boys. Women are carriers, and I am a carrier, but it affects boys. Some women or girls who are carriers may have some of the symptoms, but it's not nearly as devastating as it is for boys.
And how old is your son now?
My son is 14 years old.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's a wonderful boy.
And what is the average life expectancy now? Is it better than it was before in the past? I'm hoping it is.
It's better than it was before in the past. I think when he was first diagnosed, we were told that life expectancy was about 20 years old, and now it's about 30.
Okay.
It's about 30 years old, which is still kind of frightening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you have some great questions in this book that I believe many parents who have to deal with muscular dystrophy probably ask themselves, but are probably ashamed to ask themselves out loud. So I wanted to get to some of these questions that you put on the back from your book, Dancing in the Rain, and maybe you can start that conversation for some of the parents who may be watching right now.
That would be lovely.
Okay, so one of the questions you ask is, can I hate the disease and still be a loving parent?
And I believe the answer is yes. That moment that I had with my son where we acknowledged that we hated muscular dystrophy, that was an awakening for me, because it was the first time that I acknowledged how I really feel. Sometimes we as parents, we try so hard to be strong for our kids, to buck up and show that we have it all under control. But Eckhart Tolle says that whatever we resist persists.
That's right.
So in order to let it go, it's necessary to just acknowledge that it sucks, that we don't like it. And once we acknowledge it, we have no need to stay in that place, but we can move on.
Wow. How can people get to that point where they're no longer resisting? I mean, is it something, when you got to that point, did it take therapy sessions for you? Did it just take time? Did it take support of other people? What helped you get to that point?
I'd like to say yes, yes, and yes. It took time. And it took an attitude of letting it go. You know, when my son was first diagnosed, as I said in my bio, the first question I was asking was, why me? And it's a question that we all ask. Why me? Why not? What did I do to deserve this? Mm-hmm. And I think as long as we hold on to that question, then we're going to be caught up in a place where there are no answers.
Yes.
You know? Mm-hmm. For me, I asked that question in the beginning, but then I put it aside. And I just had faith that the answer was going to come. Because there had to be an answer. This cannot be chaotic. Mm-hmm. It cannot be a whim, because I couldn't live with that. And so I just said, okay, the answer is coming. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, I'm going to live my life, try to make my son as happy as I can possibly make him.
Absolutely. Which leads to the next question that you put in the back of the book. How can I embrace my child when I am afraid of what will happen to him?
I write in the book, in the second chapter, the feelings that I had when he was first diagnosed. I wanted him to die. Mm. I wanted him to die right then because I loved this child so much. I could not imagine going through life and watching him become weaker and weaker and having him leave me. As my love for him grew stronger, I was tortured by that thought and the guilt of feeling that way. You know, I'm his mother. I'm not supposed to feel that way. But I did until one night I had a dream. I had a dream that he died. And it was devastating. It was devastating. I woke up in the middle of the night screaming that I wanted my son to live. And that sort of changed things. Mm. It sort of changed things. So I can embrace the fact that this is happening, but every moment that I have to be with this child is a precious moment, and I want it. Absolutely, 100%, I want it all.
Wow. And when you talk about wanting him to die, I mean, that's probably something that many parents have felt internally but didn't want to say.
Yeah, I did not admit it to anyone. I mean, this is many years later that I am finally actually saying it out loud. And when this book is published, then it will be out in the universe that's what I felt. But I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anyone that I felt that way because I was ashamed of feeling that way.
Wow. And do you come across other parents who feel that way when you speak at many of the events that we spoke about in the bio?
Actually, I do. I have come across parents who say, would it be better for my child to die now than to grow weaker and weaker and not be able to do things for himself? They question. I mean, who are we to say what life should be as far as quality of life? Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. And especially as my son is 14 now and he's looking at his own mortality, I don't know, you know. I would hope that he would want to continue living, and I would hope that my love for him is enough.
Yes.
But as he becomes a man, there will be other considerations.
Wow. Well, as I said, the book asks several questions, but I think more importantly, it also provides a great number of strategies. Mm-hmm. And, of course, your name is Star, and when we come back from our break, we want to talk about the STAR strategies for helping a child who has muscular dystrophy. So I think the audience will also be looking forward to that because I know I'm looking forward to talking about it.
All right.
We'll be right back to Real Talk.
So, are you going out tonight?
I can't. My parents say I have to be home right after work.
That's so gay.
Totally gay.
Ugh, that is so Emma and Julia. Why are you saying that's so Emma and Julia?
Well, you know, when something is dumb or stupid, you say that's so Emma and Julia.
Who says that?
Everyone. Imagine if who you are were used as an insult. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we look at issues facing our youth. Once again, my name is Ome Congo with my very special guest, Star Babatun, author of Dancing in the Rain. Now, Star, you have some great, and it has nothing to do with the fact that it spells out Star, but these are some stellar strategies for dealing with children with muscular dystrophy. And the S stands for Start New. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that whenever a family has a brand new child, they have their goals and their dreams for that child. You can't help yourself. Oh my gosh, what's he going to be? What's he going to do? And you start having these ideas. But then when that child is diagnosed with a life-altering disease, those dreams and goals get shifted. And for a lot of people, it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go of what could have been or what should have been. You know, we have a choice in what we focus on, but it's very difficult to not focus on what's lost and what's gone. And so strategy number one, the S, is for start new, meaning let go of the old dreams. Let them go.
Wow.
And be open to create new dreams and new goals. You know, my son was a pretty beefy baby. Everyone said, "Oh my God, look at that linebacker." So, you know, we had those thoughts.
That's right.
He would be a jock. And when he was diagnosed, of course, those dreams dissipated. But he ended up doing Taekwondo. And he's now on a power soccer team. And he's one of the best in the league for power soccer, where he uses his wheelchair and a giant ball. So he's still a jock.
Yeah.
I had to let go of the old, to start new, and let the new dreams unfold.
Wow. That's amazing. The T is for take time to live and laugh.
Absolutely. Again, when tragedy strikes, we have a habit sometimes of focusing on what's missing, what's wrong, what's sad, how hard it is. But it's important to laugh at yourself, to enjoy your children, to create each day. And it's not just for parents with children with disabilities. It's for all of us.
Yes.
Life is short, really. We have a choice. Again, we get to be sad if we choose to. But why not choose happiness? And why not take the time to do that?
Does your son like to laugh?
Oh my God, the boy is hilarious. The older he gets, the funnier he gets. And one of the things that I've decided with him a long time ago is that I want him to laugh every day to the point where it hurts. I want it to be painful. I want him to just laugh as hard as he can. When he went through the transition where he stopped walking, he was about 9 or 10 years old, and he would fall down, and as he began to fall down more, he was more frustrated all the time. And so I would have to pick him up, and the first thing I would say is, don't laugh. Do not laugh. Of course, you say don't laugh to a 9-year-old. Exactly.
Yeah.
The first thing he's going to do is laugh, and so that released the tension for us and allowed us to do what we had to do.
Wow, that's amazing. The A stands for accept the tears.
Again, this is about we as adults being strong and putting on our strong face. You know, oh, this is fine. Everything is lovely and I've got it together. But inside, you know, we are crying. We are falling apart because we think it's so necessary to put that on. I was talking to a friend of mine, Arlene Bender.
Oh, wow.
And she says that when she was fighting with depression, she says sometimes she would just give herself an appointment, make an appointment to go ahead and be depressed and cry and get it out of the way. 4 o'clock today, I'm going to hold it together until 4, and then she would let loose, have a couple of hours, a good cry, a good sad time, and then she could move on. And I think that's an excellent idea. The more important thing here is to accept our children's tears. You know, we as parents, we want our children to be happy, and that's in order. That's right. we don't want them to be sad. That day in the parking lot when my son saw my tears, probably for the first time, he wasn't frightened. He was relieved, Omekongo. He was relieved to know that I felt the same way he did. Imagine, you're a child and this horrible thing is happening to you, and everyone around you is smiling, saying, oh, it's okay, it's going to be fine. You're thinking, I don't think this is okay. Something must be wrong with me. But if your child can see that you're just as upset as he is, then I think that relieves some of the pressure. 5 minutes later after that car ride, my son's in the backseat with his sister laughing and giggling and has moved on. I, of course, was depressed for another 2 weeks.
Right.
But he just needed to know that it was okay to feel those feelings. And I think that is an important part of accepting the tears.
Absolutely. Which leads us to the R, which is replenish the spirit.
Absolutely. We all have cell phones these days, right? And we all know that your cell phone works better when it's fully charged, when you've got 4 bars as opposed to 1.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You drop less calls.
We all know that.
We all know that, all right? You have a stronger connection, and you're able to get the things done that you need to get done when you have 4 bars. We're no different. We are no different. And usually, well, a lot of times caregivers, especially mothers, I'm going to go ahead and say it, especially mothers, we think that we're the only ones that can do it, that we can do it better than anyone else. And while that might be true, that we can do it better than anyone else, it's not necessarily good for us to do everything for our child. And one of the reasons is that we work better when we're recharged, when we take a break, when we step back a little bit. Maybe let Auntie take care of the child. Let Dad do it. How about that? He's competent and he probably wants to. You know, we need to step back, take some time for ourselves, replenish our spirit, and then when we come back, we've got so much more to give.
But when you talk about the dad or the aunt getting involved, it leads me to one of your other questions from the first part when you say, how do I help my child when I don't have that family support network? What do people do in that instance? Are there people, organizations? What does someone do if they feel like they're all alone?
And that's a very good question, and it's something I think that affects a lot of parents because my husband and I went through a silent period. We weren't talking about it. We just weren't talking about it. But there are a lot of organizations. There is the Muscular Dystrophy Association, which is the most famous. It's Jerry's Kids. They provided us with so much help and pointed us in the direction of support groups that we could talk to, and also Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, which is, I've got to say, that's my star organization. They were there for us in so many different ways. Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy is the largest organization that supports Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is the disease that my son has. And they have an entire community. They have online help. They have a conference every year where you get to get information, research what's the latest, what doctors are doing. But the best part about that, Ome Congo, is the community of other parents. No one gets you like another parent who has a child with a life-altering disease. No one gets you like that.
Right.
So it is available out there because sometimes relatives are well-meaning, but they can't handle it. Everyone handles tragedy in a different way, and we can't always expect our family to be as we would want them to be. They need their own time to process and their own way of processing. In the meantime, there are other resources and other sources for us.
How has this book been for you? Has it been therapeutic? Has it been a burden? Have you been feeling just a great deal of pride, joy, sadness in putting this out there because you're about to release it to the world?
I am. I'm very proud. I'm very happy of this book. And it answers the why me question. It answers the why me question. And in the years that I've lived since diagnosis, I've been able to help hundreds of families. And with the release of this book, I hope to help hundreds of thousands of families deal with not just muscular dystrophy, but cerebral palsy and Down syndrome and autism. All of us, parents, dealing with children with life-altering diseases, I get to make a difference. This is amazing, and it's very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling because I knew that there would be an answer, that there would be, something would come
Yes.
if I was just patient and, you know, and accept what was happening and move through it, that there would come a reason. This is the reason. This is very fulfilling for me.
Well, answering this fourth question from your list of questions help other parents. The question of, will I ever be happy again? You look like someone who is happy. You're smiling. You talk about your son dealing with his challenges, but still finding the time to smile and to laugh. How can parents get to that point? Because I'm sure they're asking that question on a daily basis. Will I ever be happy again?
And the answer is yes, absolutely, if you choose to. If you choose. And I think that following the strategies in my book will help you reach that place where you will be happy again. Life is filled with joy. Life is filled with joy for myself, for my family, and it's because I choose. I choose joy at every instance.
That's beautiful. And your sister, I mean, his sister, they interact wonderfully as well?
They do. They're, you know, brother and sister. They kill each other and love each other. I took him shopping just today, and he's like, oh, you've got to get this for Xanthia. My daughter's name is Xanthia. You've got to get this for her. I'm like, really? He's always thinking about his sister and always protecting her.
That's wonderful. Where can people get this book and learn more about who you are and the amazing work that you're doing?
Thank you so much, Omekongo. People can go to my website, dancingintherainbook.com. That's dancingintherainbook.com. Or they can send an email to dancingintherain@gmail.com. dancingintherain@gmail.com.
And they can also contact you there if they're interested in speaking engagements and any other type of event.
Absolutely. I would love to do support groups to talk about the book, or to do workshops and seminars, as I do for Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy. I do workshops to help parents actually, to give them coping strategies.
And when you talk about, it's not about the circumstances, it's about altering the circumstances and taking control of that. Do you feel like that's a message that resonates with parents?
I think that it can. I think that it can. Ultimately, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. Life is about learning to dance in the rain. And if we can learn to dance in the rain, that means learn to find joy even in the worst circumstances, then we will have a fulfilling life and we will have joy.
Wow. All I can say, Star, is just from the energy that you're radiating, it seems like you have found this joy. It seems like you've imparted it onto your son and your family. And many of us are just grateful that you're out there being an inspiration to so many other people out there and informing the ignorant, which is extremely important as well. Because even parents who aren't raising children with muscular dystrophy should know more about it as well.
Absolutely.
So we thank you for taking the time to come out, talk with us at Real Talk.
Well, thank you, Omekongo. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Star is the author of Dancing in the Rain, Loving a Child with a Life-Altering Disease. Please check out the website, dancingintherainbook.com, and share your thoughts with us as well. Once again, my name is Omekongo. If you want to reach out to me, please send me an email to realtalk@omekongo.com. And remember, our youth are 50% of our population, but 100% of our future. And we must always keep them in our hearts and in our minds and in our dreams. Until next time.